video, I'm going to help you work out whether this vehicle is worth buying. So, I've just been sort of going through it, taking some notes, coming to some conclusions myself, and working out what work it really needs and what sort of condition it's in. So, I suppose the first thing I've done is I've got the night heater working, which wasn't working to begin with. As you can see here, this is the 24 volt one, and it's 8 kilowatts, so it puts quite a lot of power out there. Obviously this will want replacing, so it actually feeds the heat into the rear, but that's reasonably minor. This here is the chassis batteries. Once again, another 24 volt system. These are brand new. I put these on the vehicle, so that's a bit of a bonus. This is an empty box, so you could put something else in there. That's the main diesel tank for the vehicle, and that also supports the 24 volt diesel heater at the rear. Okay, so coming back round. So, this is a mechanical ramp. It's also the steps, but it turns into a wheelchair accessible option. Haven't managed to get it going. I am familiar with these. 9 times out of 10 the customers remove them or don't necessarily need them to be wheelchair accessible. If indeed you do require that, it's more than likely I will be able to get that going. So into the back. Here's the control panel, and that's the night heater in the on position. Here's various other options on the vehicle, lights, etc. And in the back, I've removed the pre-existing batteries which were located inside here. They were just completely unserviceable, and I've just got one of our jump packs out, put it on 24 volt, and essentially replicated what the batteries would have done. It's a great space down here, and obviously nowadays lithium batteries, which are far superior to lead acid, are coming down in price. This is a great spot to essentially replace what's not there anymore with some lithium batteries. So I've hooked this up, and the battery charger, so we've got 240 volts going in. That should then convert the 240 to 24 volts to charge the batteries inside there, but that unit's not working. But that's fine because the unit isn't compatible with lithium anyway, so that's scrap. This is an inverter. This doesn't work either, but once again, this isn't compatible with lithium, so that's scrap as well. That's an air in for the night heater. So it's not looking too good at the minute, is it really, in terms of the electrics, but the night heater's working, the lights are working, and the infrastructure is there. And I mean, this technology is 20 years old anyway, so in my opinion, if you're going to be using this vehicle to live in it or doing some sort of conversion with it, you need to be considering investing in some new technology. Even if you manage to get some second hand, it's still going to be better than 20-year-old electrics that's, you know, miles and miles outside of its warranty.
Okay, just on a side note, I found a little gap in the market. I noticed that electric vans were really cheap. I noticed they were really bad as well, but I noticed they had lots of lithium batteries on them, and I thought we could repurpose them for these kind of projects. So if indeed you do want some lithium batteries, I've got some at a really good rate. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Right, I will jump back onto my notes and see what else I've got to talk about. So there are some areas that I'm going to recommend for welding. These areas here, inside these boxes, especially here where the night heater is as well. It probably makes sense to essentially just cut these out and replace them, really, I would say. Right, let's check out this Mercedes Ertiga and see how it fares when we try and start the vehicle up. for the rear air suspension. Of course, the front is on leaf springs. So, if you press this button here, it should send the rear axle down like so. And back up. Turn this off now. I always did wonder why in all of these library buses that we get, this isn't an exclusive feature to this vehicle in any way, shape or form, but they always have the captain's swivels, which really don't make much sense at all, especially considering that they have these additional seats here anyway. But yeah, it does have swivel seats in the front. Overhead storage with lots of random stuff in there. It looks like we've got the original manuals in there, which is always nice. Loads of bits and bobs. COVID-friendly mask. Now there's no air conditioning in this cab, which isn't a surprise. That's not a feature you find too often on these kind of vehicles. We've got windows that open here, windows that open on the driver's side as well, and of course air operated doors. So that can be controlled from the cab, or it can be controlled from just here as well. So press open. With this being a fixed cab, so traditionally Mercedes Artigos, because this of course is an Artigo, not a Vario, even though it's the same running gear, they traditionally have a tilt cab, which means you can tilt the cab over and therefore make, well, access the engine area. To access the engine area, you just unclip these, slide this off, and you've got access to the legendary 4250cc engine. So, one of the advisories on the MOT, there were very few, but one of the advisories which would put me off, I wouldn't want to go and travel 100 miles to go and view a vehicle if it had this sort of advisory, because I'd be wondering how lenient the MOT tester would be. So let's go underneath the vehicle and see what it's actually like. Okay, so that's the 90 still running. The actual chassis rails themselves are solid, fantastic. All looking really good there. Got a couple of shiny new parts here as well.
These shiny new parts were actually picked up on the 2021 MOT as an advisory, and as a result look like they were replaced by the council.
This area here, it's very flaky, and this certainly wants tapping off, scraping back and putting some sealant over the top to protect it for the future, but it's just flakiness, and it is solid, it is integral, but like I said, it just wants flaking off like so, obviously with a slightly different tool than your hand. Getting it back to bare metal and painting it to protect it for the future. If you just look down the so this area here is particularly bad, not the end of the world like I've just said, but as you can see the rest of it, it's actually pretty good. So in terms of welding, no welding so far on my journey looking underneath the vehicle. underneath here, you can see we've actually applied some underseal to the chassis ourselves. And that's essentially what you want to be doing down the vehicle yourselves. You see on here that rear air suspension bags are looking great. The tyres also looking really good. Okay, so coming a bit further down the chassis towards the transmission. Have a quick look at the transmission. Still got the guard on it, which is reasonably rare. It's a sign that it's been maintained. Well, it's actually a sign that it might have not been maintained, because most people that maintain vehicles are lazy and sort of take them off and then don't actually put them back on. But let's just assume that whoever maintained this vehicle was reasonably responsible. But given the mileage, to be fair, it wouldn't have had any maintenance on the transmission anyway. But it's all looking nice and dry, nice and clean, nice and shiny, really. Let's see if I can make my way a little bit further down here. As you can see, guys, the chassis is really good, and it's just really the surface area that needs a bit of time taking off and undersealing. Okay, so looking at this vehicle, it does look reasonably smart. It does, I have to say. We've de-stickered it, and now you've got a plain white and red van. But saying that, it is a little bit, what do I mean, I suppose? See here? Really, it really does want a paint job. It's just a bit scabby, it's a bit rough looking. The fade's faded away in areas. But yeah, I mean, without much preparation, you could paint this vehicle and it would look a completely different vehicle. And given the fact actually that they've maintained using this body shape, I think up to about 2014, if you painted it and put a private plate on it, you wouldn't think it was any more than 10 years old, even though it's 20 years old. So yeah, in conclusion, I would buy this vehicle if I was a huge fan of Mercedes, and in particular the Vario / Ertigo, the running gear, which is famous for travelling many miles without few issues. Also, if you're looking for a Laribus in particular and you were a fan of the Mercedes, this would be a great vehicle to go for. That doesn't say that it doesn't need any work. If it was my vehicle, I'd be preparing the chassis, making it rust-free and making it last for many years to come. But really, other than that and doing the aesthetics and fitting it out as a vehicle, it's sort of no different to any other project that's available out there. So I'd say it's a really good opportunity, and hopefully I've covered absolutely everything that was necessary here. Thanks very much.